So, hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I think a lot of people have started and joined our sessions in earlier as well. It actually motivates us to do more for every individual because whatever the learning we do on a day-to-day basis, we wanted to bring that through our YouTube channel, right? And specifically when it comes to the focusing on the areas of this stream, which is Tech Talk Asia, right? So we have started this journey in the month of February. So every month on the last Monday of the month, we started to bring out certain benefits of Azure Stack HCI, which can be helpful, right? So we started with a journey of how the designing and the best of Azure Stack HCI can be helpful for any customer or any environment, okay? And how it actually works for starting from a single node and the minimum requirement of a configuration, and what kind of a technology in the recent demands. We know it's more of a VDI, which is generally a biggest demand in the present market. How with the HCI we can able to take the virtual desktop infrastructure scenarios very easy. And in between last 2 weeks, we delivered two more sessions, basically on a hybrid integration with the HCI and the security balancing from the posture of a HCI from Microsoft, what it is covering. And today's session, we are majorly focusing on how easy to consider, because from last 4 or 5 schedules, whatever we have learned, we learned that what is the value of HCI and how simplified we can start, and what are the various scenarios we have a technicalities benefits from the HCI, right? And today's scenario is how easily we take it up for our requirements to manage the deployments, or basically managing the prerequisites and other stuff, okay? And I would urge each and everyone to follow our channel called Microsoft Hybrid User Group. Okay. And if anyone has missed the earlier sessions, you can able to go back to that channel and check all the videos, what we have been doing in the different activities, especially for this series of sessions. You can able to see this is a session called as a sixth session when you go to YouTube Live. Okay. A simple request is please subscribe, like, and share to whomever it can be helpful. Okay. With this series, what we wanted to bring is we don't want to just simply do a session. We want to inspire you. We want to ignite the technologies what we are experiencing so valuable, and we wanted to ensure that it can be helpful to take off this journey for your needs, for your requirements. Okay. And with this, I would like to introduce my team. So today we have a special speakers who actually leads this kind of deployments, experiences for our end customers, which is which is more exactly starting for the customer requirements. So we have Linus and Shua as the active speakers today, and we have our team members who supports us from the backend infrastructure like Linus, like Vic, Lauren, Ko, Noel, and myself, right? So we as a team, we run this activities, okay? So for us, the biggest inspiration is the technology innovation, where the collaboration works with Intel and Microsoft, right? So they are the one who is actually building us a lot of technicalities which can be helpful into the day-to-day basis. That is one of the biggest way to look at, right? With this, I would like to just give us the today's agenda. So as you know, this is majorly focusing on the deployment, especially Azure Stack HCI deployment. So today's session is broken into two. So the first section is before we consider the live environment deployment, right? What are the prerequisites, a learning experience, and the proof of concept kind of scenarios, basically to understand how this setup, this can be helpful for your need of the infrastructure, right? So this is something, the first portion, which is called as a proof of concept. For that, I would like to invite the special person, Mr. Linus, who actually leads the end customer relationship from Malaysia, and he works from he has his own company called Vega Edge, and I would like to just take his experience and experience sharing to all of us for our requirements for managing the deployment. Before deployment, what all the things needs to be considered. Thank you, Linus. Please, over to you.
Thank you, Amma. All right. Okay, good day to everyone. Okay, let me share my screen. I think you can see my screen now. All good?
Yes, we can see your screen. Thanks.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Amma, for confirming that. All right, then again, good day to everyone. So let's move on. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the IT industry for more than 25 years. Started off with software development, and now spend a lot more time in infrastructure and system architecture area. Okay, so I think recent years, since 2017, I've been working with the group of our friends here, like what Amar shared just now. That we have started a journey with Azure Stack HCI. Back then it's called S2D. Okay, so this journey has been exciting. It helped us to reach out to a lot of people and bring the benefit of Azure Stack HCI to many organizations. Okay, so as Amar just now mentioned,
we can't see Linus as of.
Okay, so as just now I explained, POC, like Amar say, is also first part of how we bring up the journey of a customer embarking on the Azure Stack HCI experience, because all of us know that sometimes adopting a new technology architecture, it may not be that easy. So it's important for us to walk through together with the customer, all right? So POC is actually the starting of a journey, and also is part of the journey as well. Okay, so this is one of the real POC project. All right, so for a POC project, it is not like we want to show them what they want to see, Azure Stack HCI, and we just bring the server and install for them. I think that is the work we will do, but however, before that, we will have to prepare some of the activity, all right? So for example, today I would like to cover a few topics, okay? So first of all, the POC expectation of the POC work is very important. So it has to be documented. So that's why POC document is extremely important. Okay, so look at this. Then secondly, I will run through some of the POC work. I'll go through one demo in terms of what is I/O performance is about. Okay, and then we'll talk about what is resiliency test, because these two are the key component that you should have inside your POC activity. All right, without further ado, let me go into the POC document. So in POC document, we like to lay down what is important in the whole exercise. So that's why it's important to talk about why we want to do the POC activity. Okay, what do we want to do during the POC activity? When are we going to do it? How long are we going to do it? Who is responsible for which area? Because we are putting the cluster, HCI cluster at customer site. So therefore, we also need their team to cooperate with us to provide a certain facility like a rack position and so on and so forth, network connectivity, so that we are able to access to some of the infrastructure they have, such as internet and so on. Okay, and how are we going to do it? I think these are the few key areas we want to cover in a good documentation. Okay, so I have a document, sample document I'd like to share with you. Okay, I know this is a video session. It may not be very easy to read, but however, I will pause at certain pages and highlight what are the key area. So this is a sample document. If you can see, there is a title page, a concept, and you put a customer name in there, and you can even put objective or a specific project, because sometimes the customer have, for example, it is an ERP project, or it can be server refresh projects. So you can actually name them and put down an abstract, all right, and document down the version revision as well. Okay, so this is where we go through the table of content. Okay, so we run through what will be the objective of the POC. Then with the subsequent, what is the scope, what is in scope, what is out of scope. It's very similar to how you run a project, so that we won't end up dragging the POC activity, because it will be very strenuous to your resources, as well as customer team member as well. So I'll run through the pages below. Okay, so objective, you can use this as a sample. All right, Microsoft Azure Stack HCI focus area. managing of compute, virtual network, and so on and so forth. So I think this one you can define according to your nature of your environment, as well as the understanding and the conversation with customer. So scope, what is in scope, what is out of scope? I have a subsection in here, all right? It's important to define very clearly. Okay, the timeline is extremely important, all right, so that you don't overrun the activity. Okay, so how is it connected to their existing environment? How many network port do you need from them? Are we using 1 gig connection or 10 gig connection? So these are the few area that we need to be very clear. Okay, what will be the connectivity as well? So then what is out of scope? It's important to define the in scope, and it's also important to define the out of scope. Okay, very important, highlight to customer. This is an experience sharing. It is not a training program. We like them to experience. We will share with them a little bit of administrative experience, but however, we will not conduct a full training, teach them how to set up, teach them how to administer the full systems, and so on and so forth. But if those are agreed and spelled out in the activities, yes, then we will actually go through with them. So there are some assumption and constraint, all right, we have to explain. For example, if your hardware, it is 1U with a certain number of RAM and also certain number of storage capacity. So therefore, you spell out the constraint according to probably the BOM or whatever constraint you might have, time, resources, and so on. Okay, it's very important also to spell out who is responsible for what task. Okay, so important, before we go into responsibility, we also like to spell out what is the POC success criteria. Okay, so it's important to spell this out, because at the end of the POC, if you are looking for the customer to commit to deploy a cluster, I think we need to define what is considered a successful POC, what is considered a failure. All right, so in the process, you can easily conclude at the end of the POC period. So agreed, these are all the agreed checklists. So as soon as the customer, you presented the information, customer happy, then this is where the sign off column is. Okay, but again, this is only reference. I think number 1, 2, 3, 4 is very important as a foundation. Number 5 and onwards, it depends on your conversation with the customer. What will be important, please put it down here and make sure that you can do all the activity within the agreed period of the availability of the server as well as the availability of your resources. Okay, then we go into the approach, how we're going to do it, who is going to, what is the project cycle is like, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, when is the date, all right? So I abstract this template from POC project back in 2020, all right? So you can spell out according to your duration of your project. And also role and responsibility, who is supposed to be responsible for what, spell it out. Whatever you see on screen here, it is a good guide. But however, if you think that certain information is important, please include so. Project sponsor is very important, because this is the person who will fund the project if the POC is successful, all right, to move forward. This is the decision maker, whether to move on to the next step or not, okay? Then who is your customer technical team, end user technical team, our technical team member, the project lead, who will do what. Then what is the next item? All right, next item, action item is very important. As soon as POC is concluded, we want to move on to the next step. Okay, so put down all the commitment of the customer after POC. Yeah, put here. Then the contact, email address, telephone number, put it down here so that we know who and when to call who, okay? Okay, so the last page, of course, is important for us to spell out what is the BOM that you deliver to customer, so the number of RAM, the processor, Intel processor, how many core is important to spell out, how many CPU is important, so that we set an expectation correctly in this manner. Okay, so in our example, is Intel Xeon Gold 5218. This is one of the processor that we use it at that time, and also the other configuration. Yeah. Okay, so this is a very quick review of the documentation. Okay, then I'll move on to back to my slide. Okay. So I think I run through with you in the summary. POC document need to set expectation. I think it's important. Objective, this is where we set the expectation. Okay, so what are the agreed tasks, agreed duration and deadline, agreed responsibility, who, all right, and also the defined outcome. Okay, so of course, you should also include the approach, all right, which is the activity you're going to do. Okay, then after this is agreed and signed off, then you are okay to move on to the next step, is executing the task. Delivering the server, mounting it into their server room. Okay, I think this is the first step. Of course, setting up the cluster, running the I/O benchmarking test, performance resiliency test, and review with customer. These are the item 1, 2, 3, 4. You remember? If I show you just now the POC document. Yeah. Okay. So I'll come to the first demo. All right. First demo is basically we are running through an I/O performance test. Azure Stack HCI is primarily a storage solution. The compute, the RAM, and also the storage, they are all encapsulated and virtualized within a stack of servers. So, but VM Fleet is the one that we use, is the tool. The name of the tool is called VM Fleet for us to test the IOPS, collective IOPS across the entire cluster. Okay, this tool is created by Microsoft and it started off from this SPD. Those of you who have used this SPD is probably familiar back in the server 2012. That is where we have the clustered volume storage. Okay, so once you create a cluster volume, then you run this SPD to test the volume performance, IOP performance. But if let's say we are on Azure Stack HCI, which is a HCI project, we are talking about virtualization as well. So how much virtual machine can you run? What will be the IO, IOPS performance when you have 20, 30, 50, 100 VM running? It's very difficult to use this SPD. You have to configure one VM at a time. So Microsoft expanded this SPD to the next tool. It's called VM Fleet. Okay, fundamentally, it still use this SPD. So when you install this particular module from Git in the repository of PowerShell, it will actually install the module for you. But some of the screen that I share, because we did it back in 2021, okay? So some of the command may be different. Later, I will share the link to the latest command. How do you run through the VM Fleet? Later part, you will see. So what VM Fleet does is it actually it generates the number of virtual machines that for you, okay, within the cluster, all right, and place a specific number of VM on each host. And then based on your requirement, we will run a command and it will churn out certain number of activity. You can actually do 100% read, which is 0% write activity. So the IO, what type of performance you get, you can actually say it is 10% write or 20% write, 30% write, depending on your environment or the customer environment. Okay. So I shall move on to the environment I like to show you. So in this screen, you can see Windows Admin Center have shown we have 2 units of cluster nodes. Each cluster node, we have 20 virtual machine running. So we start off one PowerShell window from one of the hosts, okay? And we run the watch cluster command. With this command, you will see that it's a figure, but there's nothing there because we haven't run the workload, okay? So you will see a blank window screen because there's no activity yet. Then we have to, from another PowerShell window, also have to run from the host, okay? And we do a start suite. And in here, you can actually see the W parameter, okay? So B, T, O, and W. W is write. So that means what is the percentage of write you want to do? If you want to understand the rest of the parameter, later go to the website. You can actually read up more. I will share with you later. But in this case, we are running 100% read I/O activity in order to show you what is the performance. Okay, so the system will confirm you want to run. Okay, we proceed to run. So when it is running, we switch over to the watch window. Just now we run first, and you can see the system will give you a current server IOP performance figure. Okay, so in this example, you can see 1.2 million IOP. It is very high. Okay. So of course, if you are more comfortable with graphic user interface, you can actually go to Window Admin Center, select the dashboard for the cluster, and scroll down to the IOP section, and you can see the equivalent amount of IOP figure on the graphic user interface, Window Admin Center. If you compare to the command prompt, which is the PowerShell window, watch window, PowerShell watch window will give you a lot more higher frequency of update, whereas Window Admin Center will give you a lower frequency of update. Also, you can see some discrepancy between the two windows, but however, it depends on the frequency of refresh. Yeah. So this is how we make use of VMFleet. You can actually use that to test, because it's very important to do this exercise so that you illustrate to the customer what is the I/O performance. Because down the road, if you want to decide what is the BOM, how many cache disks you want, whether you want a full flash and all that, this will give an indicative of how much they're going to get on what type of spec. Because just now at the end of the POC document, we already include the spec. So that spec will give you this, for example, a certain IOP figure, all right? And then you can, from there, in the next step, you will know what type of spec to go to, okay? To configure for the customer. So this is a VMFleet screen. All right, I just give you a summary. This is the QR code to the site. The URL is further down there on the right side. Okay, so you can actually go and read up. The step-by-step guide is there, how to install, how to start, how to configure and create the environment in order to run VMFleet. There are a lot of resources in there. I make it easy for you. You just scan the QR code. It will bring you right to the site, okay, to the URL. Okay, so that concludes our I/O performance test. Then next, we are going into resiliency tests, okay? So typically, you want to create Azure Stack HCI, let's say the HCI environment, you want redundancy. That is very important. So we want to show to customer that it actually works. Okay, we are very confident. So therefore, as soon as we install and we run the benchmark, we want to pull out hard disk, you know, we want to turn off server to show them, hey, the system won't down, you know. So it is very exciting exercise. So this is where we want to do. Normally for the resiliency test, we will actually go through all the 12 step by step, tell them what is the healthy cluster is like, you know, and then show them how to do live migration, what is planned maintenance, and so on and so forth, by going through all of that. And we will conclude the entire resiliency test scenarios with another health check, which is a healthy cluster again. So due to time, we will only do demo on item number 9 here, which is loss of one server. Okay, loss of one server, we spell out the scenario first. Okay, so first of all, we have one server fail in this scenario out of the 2 servers. Okay, then the objective is to demonstrate the resiliency of the cluster in the event of one server failure. Okay, so the action is we will run the VM and we will do activity on the VM, and then we will unplug the 2 power cable that attach to the server. All right, so it will turn it off. All right, of course, if you don't want to unplug, you can power it off, so it can be done. All right, so then we will see one of the VM copy files and all that, what will be their behavior. We spell out also because this is an expected behavior. Okay. So so in the event just now I share with you, we do a screen, we do a recording for the session. We wanted to borrow a meeting room, but however, that day it wasn't available. So all of us crowd together. Anyway, it's just 3 key people in the organization would like to see and witness the resiliency test. So the scenario is like this. Okay, I'm switching between slide and brand because we have done multiple. So I'm compiling all the material together for you. In this case, we have, before I go to the demo, let me explain the scenario. Okay, we have the 2 unit of the switchless HCI. Okay, VM4, all right, later in the demo, you can see the VM4, all right, short name. VM4 is running on server 1. Okay, VM3 is running on server 2. Then we will copy a file from VM3 to VM4. Okay, and then we will turn off one of the server. Okay, so now you can see the demo. Basically, we are copying from VM3 to a VM4 server share folder. All right, so you can see on the right hand side, the ISO folder is already created. And you can see in here, the 2 server is running, okay? And then with the ping going for VM4, right? Then next, what we do is we go over to the server. So the left-hand side is server 1, the right-hand side is server 2. Okay, this is a different scenario. Sorry, different project, okay? So we actually press the button to turn it off. You look at the green color blinking light, right? So it is now off. The server is down. Okay. So server 2 is still running. And now server 1 is down. And we will move on to this. Okay. All right. My PowerPoint, hang on me. Just give me a moment. Okay. Let me restart the PowerPoint show. So as the first server is down, we can actually continue with this. Okay. And we can see that VM4 is moving to server 2. Okay. Then with that, you can observe on the screen, VM4 RDP session, it is now off. Okay, so we lost connection and the ping to VM4 is also down. All right, no longer responding to ping. So you observe on Windows Admin Center, all right, it says that the server 1 is now also down. Between the servers, there is heartbeat, all right? So as soon as the heartbeat is lost, Windows Admin Center will know that the server is now no longer available, okay? All right, so in this case, we can actually see after a few minutes, because we are using default setting. So in default setting, server 2 will only boot up the virtual machine which was running in server 1 after 90 seconds. Okay, so with one certain interval, the RDP will retry and retry and retry. So in this video, I just skipped through just now, all right? And after 90 seconds, you can see that the remote, the RDP session, it is now reconnected back. Okay, so from our IT side, we actually didn't do anything, and the RDP suddenly just reconnect back. So you can see also on the right-hand side, the ping is also resumed. Okay, so it is done. Then this is the end of the resiliency test because now the virtual machine is running already on server 2. Okay, so with this, we can run through all the agreed activity in the POC, and it is time for us to wrap up. We revisit the objective, we review the finding, and also execute the next action plan. Okay, so it's very important to remember, all right, to show customer you destroy the VM that it create for you. If let's say you have their data inside, make sure that they delete it themselves. Okay. Also warning, do not deploy the entire workload to the customer side on the customer environment. Okay. And must have a very clear exit plan. Okay. All right. So this is a summary, set expectation, do the work, show them how robust the system is, and then execute the next action plan. And so that leave some for them to want more. Okay. So that is all of my sharing for today. I'd like to pass it back to Amar. Amar, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Linus. Thank you very much. Let me just pull back my slides. Perfect. Thank you very much, Linus. So it helps at least for every individual to understand that what are the best practices to be considered, right? And few of the things, most of the things are free, which is like a VM fleet or resiliency testing tools and all, right? Because that is something which gives a confidence to any individual when they want to try or consider this kind of a new technologies or this kind of a robustic technologies, because this is something which is a backbone for the infrastructure when we actually consider the hyperconverged kind of, because it's majorly an on-premises and storage-based thing. So when it is a storage, it's a data, right? We need to ensure and we need to be very confident what we are able to utilize it, right? So that's the way. So now continuing the next learning, I would like to request my closest friend, Shua, to join us and help us to give little best of his experience on deploying the Azure Stack HCI in the real times, and because he has been doing multiple deployments from last few years from the time I know him. Over to you, Chua.
Thanks, Amar.
Thank you.
So can you see my sharing?
Yes, we can see it, Chua. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is about some info about myself. Okay, I work as a pre-sale consultant in eGate messaging. And recently I have done a lot of deployment for Azure Stack HCI. So these are my deployment experiences. I have done the new deployment, of course, and redeployment, restructure of the Azure Stack HCI, and also for the upgrade, which from the 2019 data center to the Windows Server 2022 data center using the cluster rolling upgrade. And also the physical to the virtual machine migration, virtual machine to virtual machine migration. Of course, by the time you come to this project, you can run out this thing. Okay, so these are some of my portfolio. So this example at the left hand side, I've done this 4 nodes deployment before. Of course, the most popular one, 2 nodes deployment, 3 nodes deployment as well. And also I've done for those OEM brand, example Supermicro, Gigabytes, this kind of OEM brands. So let's come to the deployment. And the first thing we have to understand about the requirement for deploying Azure Stack HCI. These are the 4 main things. The first is the Active Directory. Then come to the storage replication network, east-west traffic. It must have a RDMA enabled. And then the management network and the production network. So when the time you deploy, you need to make sure that all these are ready. So over the years, right, we have actually come up with some conclusion how to make the Azure Stack HCI more robust. And then it's like you're running few years also won't have problem. So the first thing is about the Active Directory. Okay, so the first is about this design. We have a single Active Directory production AD, join all the production VM with the host of the Azure Stack HCI as well. Compared to the second one, this one. So compared to this one, as what you can see, the difference is we have the based-on AD. What this based-on AD is only for the Azure Stack HCI to actually join domain and then to create a cluster. So compare these two, which one is better? So over the few years, right, we gained the experience and we found that using the based-on AD is actually better due to the easier to deploy and also more secure, and plus the prone to the futures problem. It will has a less problem compared to you join to the production AD. And the second one is about this storage replication. So as what we know that when the time we set up the Azure Stack HCI, we have the option to deploy for using the switchless, and also another one is using the switch. So let's say you deploy very less node, those are very minimum node, like 2 nodes, 3 nodes, for maximum is 4 nodes. If for those switchless, you can deploy. If can, I will suggest that you use a switchless like this one compared to using the switch. Okay, why? If you're using the switchless, which means that less dependency, which means that it's actually less problem. I hope you agree what I say also. And but not for every deployment we can actually support this switchless. Because example, when the time you have more than 2 nodes, more than 4 nodes, example 5 nodes and above, right? You need to use the switch. And also maybe when the time you deploy 4 nodes and you are actually planning for the future scale up, and this kind of scenario, you also have to use the switch. Okay, but the our experience is, if possible, when use switchless, then you deploy using the switchless. So the next is about the management and the production network. A lot of time people deploy the Hyper-V, especially they like to actually use singles segments for all the production and for the Hyper-V network. Example, this one. So you have the production VM running and the HCI or the Hyper-V running joined to the same segment of the network. Okay, compared to this one, you split up between the HCI and the production network. Okay, so which one is better? For me, I would say that definitely this one would be better. You split them out, and if possible, make them not accessible to each other. This will make it the entire system more secure. And also, a lot of people will ask, because Azure Stack HCI, especially for the host OS, right? You need to connect to the internet. So we want to restrict the Azure Stack HCI host from fully access to the internet. So what ports actually we can restrict them, and then what's the required URL for us to connect? Actually, you can get from this link. And example, once you go into the link, right, you will see something like this. Example, the ports requires and the URL all listed very clearly for what purpose. And then come to the storage pool. A lot of people, they see this storage pool, 58.4 terabyte. They like to fully utilize it. Okay, can we fully utilize it? Answer is no. You must reserve some storage for it. Okay, so always refer to the design document or the Azure Stack HCI calculator, or this reserve storage. Example here, this is the result of the Azure Stack HCI calculator, and you see the reserve storage, right? Yeah, so these are the space which you cannot utilize. So compared to the old calculator and the new calculator, these are the difference actually. But anyway, you get the same result. Okay, these are the reserve storage. About the dedupe volume, okay, the dedupe volume, can we fully utilize it until full? Just no. Okay, so never let the dedupe storage reach to 100%. Okay, so this is something very important message. And about the dynamic disk and the fixed disk, which one should we utilize it during the production? I will always recommend you to use the fixed size. Okay, but anyway, it's very depends on the environment. So for those environment, nobody can manage well, turnover rate of the staff, IT staff, IT admin very high, then better to use the fixed size. Okay, and don't forget about the antivirus exclusion. So antivirus sometimes is running, if not exclude them from those recommended the space, the location, right? You're causing some performance problem. So you can always get the where should you exclude it from this link. Okay, come to the deployment preparation. So before we actually deploy the Azure Stack HCI, something you need to actually go through very clearly before you start to deploy. Example, the first one, the server firmware update and the Windows update. And the server name, better you actually set it properly before you join the domain. Then the management network, the storage network, the production network, have you set the IP or the requires or the adapter, have you identified it? Jumbo packet, which you're going to set for this the deployment. Then the setup information, like the cluster name, the IP, the file share witness, have you ready? And then if you are using the Azure Stack HCI host OS, right? Then Azure subscription, are you ready? And then those are volumes, resiliency, and the size to be created. All this you need to prepare. Once you have done, you have prepared this one. Okay, example, I have prepared some Excel sheet which to collect all this information. This is the example. Okay, so I get all this information collected, and then easy for me to deploy. So once you have this information well prepared, then you can start to deploy. And the deployment, actually, there are a few ways. One of it is using the Windows Admin Center by the time you want to deploy the Azure Stack HCI host OS. So let's take a look. So this is the Windows Admin Center. I click the add, right? From here, you will see this server cluster. Then click this create new. From here, there's an option for you to set up the Azure Stack HCI. And then which option you want to set. So this is the without the stretch cluster. So I choose the one all in one side. And then you need to go through all these steps, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in each step, you have the minor step 1.1, 1.2, all the tasks listed for you to complete. So the get started is actually the preparation, which for you to actually add in the server to join the domain, and then install the necessary updates, and restart the server. So this part is like discover the server first. Okay, I key in the node 1. Okay, then followed by the node 2. Then using the wizard, the next step is to join the domain for these two servers. Okay, so click next. Then key the domain name which you go to join, and then the administrative rights credential for you to join the domain. Okay, so key in the administrators and the password. Once ready, click next. Apply changes. Then you verify for you whether is it you can reach to the domain controller or not. Once it joined to the domain, the next thing is to install the necessary updates. No, sorry, this part is to install the necessary features. Okay, the features required by the Azure Stack HCI. So it's very easy for using the Windows Admin Center because everything is guided step by step. So you just need to actually get familiarized with all the required things. Then you can actually deploy it easily. Okay, I'm going to make it faster. Okay, this is install the features. Okay, once done, then we have installed the updates. Okay. So here you will discover the required updates, and then you will install for you. Okay. Then this part is about the firmware update. Okay, so after the firmware update, right? So you will restart the server for you, because you need to join the domain and then deploy the update. All this required to restart the server. So after restart the server, as you can see that the wizard will wait. We'll wait for the server to be put up. Okay, so once put up the server, you show that ready. Then you can click next to continue. Then the second step is about the networking. So this part will actually go through step by step which network adapter you need to select for the use of the Azure Stack HCI, for the storage, for the management, and for the production. And also you can set the IP for each adapter. Okay, so the first part is discover for you to check the network adapter. Okay, so click next. Then for the second is for you to select among those adapter which one you want it to become the management adapter. Okay, so this is what I say that you need to well prepare before actually you come to this one. Otherwise, you will get confused that you don't know which one should become the management adapter. Okay, apply and test. Click next after done. Then you can actually, the next step is about the virtual switch for the Hyper-V. So you can actually create here or you can create later. So I choose to create later. So this part is about to set the RDMA, RDMA for the storage adapter. So now come to the last of the second step, is 2.5, is for you to identify all the network adapter, like which one to going to become the storage, right? And which one going to become the production as well. So now this one, I just double check and then click next because these are going to be my storage adapter. So once done, the networking part, you go to the third step is create a cluster. So the first thing about this third step, right, is the validating the cluster. So you need to actually verify these two nodes. Anything miss out for you to create a cluster. So once ready, you can download the report and see. Okay, and if everything working fine, then you can just proceed to create a cluster. So example here, I confirm no issue, then I go to create a cluster. Okay, so you need to input a cluster name and also the IP for the cluster. Okay, so here I input the IP for the cluster. Okay, just click once. Okay, view the settings, and then click create cluster. And fast forward a little bit. Okay, so now you create a cluster for me. So the next step, once cluster create, you will actually go to create a storage. This is the S2D for the adjusted HCI. So the first, I'm going to erase everything which you have inside the disk, or even this is the brand new one. You will also can go through this step to make sure everything is actually clean. Okay. So after clean, the second step is to check the drive, the 4.2 step. You check the drive. So here is the hybrid combination. We have the NVMe, which has the HDD, and also have the persistent memory. So, okay. So after check through all the drive, make sure no issue. Just click next. Okay. Then you validate the storage. Okay. So everything success. It's good to go ahead. Then we click next again. Then come to the 4.4, you will enable storage spaces direct S2D. Okay, so once done means that you are completed, you are done already. And then come to the step number 5, whether you want to set up the SDN or not. So let's say for this case, we don't need to set the SDN, then we are done. Okay, so once done, still got one more step you need to go through is to actually register this cluster to the Azure Stack HCI, to the agent. Okay, and so what you can see here in the dashboard here, I will just continue here. From the dashboard here, you will see that it's not yet registered. So I will copy the code. Okay. Then key in the credential. Okay, key the credential. Then where you go through all this required step, right? And then key in the tenant ID. Okay. Then after that, I will go to again. Okay, so I fast forward because due to the time constraint. Okay, so once I have all the information filled in, right, then I just need to continue and make sure that it register with the Azure. And once success, you'll see that the status show as connected. Okay, and then if you click this view Azure resource, it will bring you to the Azure portal, and then you will able to see that the tool node is actually onboarded to the Azure. Yeah, so this will show actually in onboarded to the Azure Arc. Okay, so this is how easy we can deploy the Azure Stack HCI using the Windows Admin Center. So another way we can use PowerShell to deploy, but using the PowerShell to deploy is for more those more expert people. You already have an experience how to deploy it. Using the PowerShell script is actually faster. Let's take a look. How fast is it? So I have the two node server to set up this Azure Stack HCI. Okay, as what you can see, server 01 and server 02. Okay, and then I go back to the server 01. I have the well-prepared the script to set up. So from here, I just need this few steps, okay, in order to set up. But for the first part, I need to check that, make sure that RDMA is enabled for my network adapters for the storage. So I run this get net adapter RDMA. From here, it will show those RDMA adapter. But from here, I can see that it's not enabled, so as a false. So I need to enable for it. Okay, so let's just run this command, enable net adapter RDMA, and then followed by the adapter name. Okay. Once run already, I check again using this get net adapter RDMA. It will show that it's true. It become enabled. Okay, so this command need to deploy for both node, node 1 and node 2. Okay, after that, we just need to install using this PowerShell to install the necessary components. The necessary component, example, the dedupe function, the file services, the failover clustering, Hyper-V, okay, and it require you to restart. Okay. So this one I will do the same. I switch to the server number 2. I run the same thing again. Okay. And once server 1 and server 2 completed, right? I will run this command to test the cluster. Okay. This is to test to make sure that no problem before you actually create a cluster. Here, there's a link for you to open to view the report whether got any issue or not. So from here, so that one warning for the system configuration, which is not a big, it's just because the server software update levels issue is just a warning. So it's okay. So we will just proceed to create a cluster. So to create a cluster, we will use this command new cluster, then followed by the cluster name, and also the static IP address required to build the cluster. Okay, so cluster creation, very fast. Okay, done already. Then the next step is to actually double check those component whether come out already or not. Like example, failover cluster manager, we go in, and from here we can see that the two nodes actually enroll to the cluster. And then but the storage pool is not yet shown. Okay, so storage pool not yet shown is because of we not yet enable the S2D. So the next step is to actually enable the S2D. So before that, we run this command get physical disk to check that, to make sure that those disks are actually enrolled. Yep, you can see that those are physical disks. Okay, so once ready, we will just to run the command to enable the cluster storage space direct, the S2D. So just need to run this enable cluster storage spaces direct with the verbose parameter. Then you're going to create a S2D for us. Once done, we go to the view over cluster manager. Yeah, from here you can see that the pools come out already. Okay. So this is how easy we can use the PowerShell to deploy the Azure Stack HCI. But for the last part, if you are deployed for the Azure Stack HCI host OS, not forget to register to the Azure. Okay, to register to the Azure, you need to run this command. Okay, so the first is install the module. Then the second, this command will register the two nodes to the Azure Stack HCI. So you need to specify those subscription ID and then the computer name. Okay, and then in order for you to register to the Azure. So summary for today. So we have go through the Azure Stack HCI deployment best practices, the Azure Stack HCI deployment preparation, and also the deployment demo using the Windows Admin Center, and deployment demo using the PowerShell script. Okay, so thank you very much for actually joining us to watch our demo. I will pass this to Amma. Thank you.
Thank you, Chua. Thank you very much. Let me pull back my slides. Yeah, right. So when we actually go through these kind of things, we feel it's very easy, right? Only the request is basically to start with and use it, because when we seen the demonstrations from Linus, we could see what all the best practices from the documentation perspective, get the mind share from the end customer when we are trying to help them to adopt the latest technologies like an Azure Stack HCI, right? So the otherwise of it, it's more like what all the different tools we are introducing, how we are giving strength to the customer that what actually is the best practices to follow, and what kind of a scenarios they can feel comfort to be confident when they are adopting these new technologies, right? The same way when we see from Chua's sharing, we know what all the tools we have as a flexible for deployment and what kind of steps we need to be following and what kind of environment we need to create. And the biggest thing is the pre-checklist, right? With this kind of a best practices, every customer actually can get a best of the experience when we want to guide them towards the futuristic technology demands like Azure Stack HCI, like a storage solution which can be scalable, which can be integrated through a cloud, which can be integrated with all the security parameters, whatever they wanted to consider with, right? So we are actually in the verge of closing of today's session, right? As a flow, if you see how we started this journey, it's basically what is the best out of the Azure Stack HCI, how simplified we can start. When you consider the scenarios like a Windows Server based HCI, you require a minimum of 2 nodes. When it comes to an Azure Stack HCI concept, it's a single nodes to start, right? And one of the biggest important thing is we can start the VDI even with a simple one node as well. And when we look at the affordable kind of setup for the VDI, which is the biggest demand in the present market, right? And the fourth important thing is we learned today the HCI deployment, best practices, proof of concepts to consider and every step, right? Yes, we have one more session in this series, in this journey. This is scheduled in the next month, which is on June 26th, majorly focusing on a single node, how on a single node Azure Stack HCI, how do we manage the technologies like Azure Kubernetes for containerization. This is something which is coming up, which I'm so much excited to. And if anyone would like to refer back the content, if anyone is interested to check all the other scenarios which you could have missed out, request you to follow our channel on YouTube, which is called as Microsoft Hybrid User Group. And you can, if you like it, you please share it to all your besties or the customers so that they also gain a lot of knowledge on it. Okay. One important thing I wanted to give away is if anyone would like to take the documentations, what we have shown today, or the best practices, or you want to have a presentations or any specific things from our content, please just drop us an email on this, which is help@myearn.com, which can able to we can respond you and help you out all the things. And it's just not with the documentation, right? We can help you out with the live scenarios of your customer needs. We can help you out hand-holding with your POC requirements. We can help you out if you are stuck for your deployments or technical scenarios. If you want to create your plan for your end customer needs, accordingly, we can help you out. So for this, a simple connect to all of us to connect to us is help@my-earn.com. This is where you can just reach out to us for any help required on Azure Stack HCI. And it doesn't stop the boundaries anywhere in the world, because we are all in the digital world. We can able to connect and help us to have a best experience for you and customers and for yourself as well. With this, I would like to thank every person in our team, like Linus, Shubha, and Ko, Wade, Lauren, all has been very helpful. And we work as a community, we work as a team to ensure to bring you all the best practices and the best experiences, what we actually follow in our day-to-day experiences to help a lot of customers. Okay. And would like to see you all back again in our next session, which is scheduled in the month of June, which is on June 26th. Okay. Before leaving, I would like to emphasize you all to follow us on a WhatsApp group. This is a WhatsApp group link. We call it as a Security 101, because the cyber threats have increased huge among us at present in the world. So being a tech oriented individuals, how do we to be up to date, right? This is a group which is freely available. You can scan from your phone the QR code, and you can able to just search for add on to the group, so that you see a lot of sharing from different people from the entire Asia, whoever see and whoever observe, who learn certain things on a security, where you can able to follow a lot of informations like this. Where what you see here are multiple examples which you can able to see across, right? This could able to help you, because you need to be ahead than your customers or to the latest trends what is following, so that we can ensure our infrastructure and our environments to be more and more secure. Okay. With this, I would like to sign off for this month's session. Thank you for everyone joining for this session, and see you in the next month's schedule. Thank you.